Okay, sorry, I really hate when I do this in videos, when I just like change what it is that I'm doing, but I got distracted. I got distracted when I came home yesterday. I started to play with the Poseidon a little bit. I wanted to just see if the stuff that I purchased would work. If you'll recall, I ordered like the proper nut to go into the lever. It did work. It worked flawlessly. So I said, that's great. I'm going to use the hose that I have, and I'm going to set it up. I'm going to set up the front brake. I'm going to bleed it. So I pulled the bleed kit out. I got ready to bleed it. I put my mineral oil in my plunger, and then I went to go put this into the lever, and of course, in Shimano fashion, this is too small for a road lever. Now, again, had I have looked this up, yes, I would have known that I would need now what I have. This adapter. I know that now. I know that I need it now, but no, I didn't know that beforehand. Why would I know this? And it's not something that comes with the kit. I have it now, and the excitement of going out and buying an absurd amount of barbs and olives so that I can screw this up numerous times. A bleed hose kit, like a brake hose kit, the proper one, so that I can do the rear. And using the rear from the original Ultegra setup for the front for a hose that's right now too short. Anyway, long way around to say, today I am finishing the Poseidon and I'm going to ride it. Probably tomorrow because of course it's raining. Anyway, sorry to be misleading with the opening of this video. So welcome to this iteration of not Tinker Tuesday finishing a build. I'm sorry if that was a little bit terrible. A certain level of nerves, excitement, and maybe a little bit of alcohol mixed in.
There's only one man clever enough to have perpetrated such a dastardly crime.
Ha! And I thought you were ready to give up.
Wild progress so far. I've never been so comfortable working with hydraulic hoses, barbs, and olives before. This wasn't something I did a whole lot of at Ideal Bikes when I was working there. That just kind of wasn't really the work that we took on all the time. So of course I've always had this like inkling of nervousness every time I work around routing hydraulic brake hoses and bleeding it and everything. But the one main trick that has really kind of eased that nervousness, especially here today, is just having like a surplus of extra parts. The allowing yourself to make those mistakes that you might make, and having the parts here available to be able to continue on after the mistake is made. So all of the spare kind of hoses that were hanging out around here from like the previous two group sets, the new hose that I bought, the plethora of barbs and olives that I also got in case I ever did tighten something down before it needed to be. It's certainly a luxury I would have had working at the shop. It's not a luxury that I've always had here. And while I'm here talking about it, I just want to thank everyone who does support this channel. You guys are the reason why I get to actually take this on comfortably and not have to take like 8 or 9 trips to a bike shop to get all the right parts after something screws up. Thankfully, I do now have like 7 barbs and olives left over because I didn't make any mistakes. Of course, when you take the time to think about it and measure twice, cut once, it does tend to help move things on a little quicker. So with all that said, I'm going to route the derailleur cables. I'm going to route the shift cables for this thing now. And I'm going to kind of like put it together and bleed it and see if it works. Vocal as I am about being a SRAM guy, and the fact that I absolutely despise the fact any sort of Shimano stuff, you tend to need more than what you originally planned for tools-wise, like equipment-wise, to make it work. I can't even off the top of my head think about all the things that I needed to do to get this to work. After you acquire all these things, and it does pain me to admit this and say this, bleeds better than a SRAM setup does. Of course, with SRAM setups, you just need the 2 syringes. You know, they screw right in. They're the same across the board. You can use the same bleed kit with the same fluid in all of them. You could bleed a road set. You can bleed a mountain bike set. Yeah, awesome. But the bleed procedure is stupid and not intuitive. The Shimano one, after you have all the proper stuff for each individual part, very frustrating, is very much like bleeding a car brake. You know, this, it's done and working perfect and flawlessly with the R505 caliper and Ultegra levers. Hell yeah, brother. And considering this build includes a bunch of things that pain me to do because of a history of giving Shimano flack, I'm gonna do something else that'll also pain me, and that is install white bar tape on a gravel bike. A very stupid thing to do. A very ill-advised thing to do. A very irrational thing to do. But I do have white bar tape that I've kind of been meaning to use on something. Felt like the entire time that I was building this thing that it would never get finished, especially with all the like random missing parts and you know, all the learning curve that goes with it. But it is done. It's ready. No clutch. I'm like very antsy to go ride this right now, but it's just not possible. It's raining. It's dark. Tomorrow. Though, one thing I'd like to address before this video is done, especially because in the last video that featured this, where I talked about the loam lever, and the fact that I spent like a pretty absurd amount of money on it, there's like one comment that came up where it was like, you know, this guy advocates for riding reasonably priced bikes that aren't like wildly expensive, top end, blah, 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 all that, and then buys a $105 lever. That one's an easy call out. It was kind of my mistake. I bought it right from the store. Shipping was more expensive than other places I could have got it from. That was my mistake. That was just pure stupidity. In this case, I could see how it might be conceived as like, this was a budget bike. It had Claris on it, 8-speed. And here I am with now Ultegra 11-speed hydraulic brakes, 105 crank, like all of these, you know, expensive upgrades. And I'm a little worried that it might be construed as this bike wasn't good enough. If you recall back, I got this lever set, the front derailleur and the rear derailleur for 250 Canadian dollars. So that's like $1 American. That's a good deal. That's hard to pass up. You're gonna wanna take stuff like that. Building it was fun, riding it won't necessarily be. That'll be fun to talk about, but I rode this bike for a long time with the crappy brakes that were on it. And besides, the whole point of this bike and what Poseidon does with their frame first philosophy is that you can work towards this. It took 2 years to get to this point, and I got to ride it every single step of the way. This is personally my favorite way to build a bike, is to have incremental steps in the things that you upgrade as you go so that you can keep riding while you're tinkering on it. Just sacrilege. This is gonna bother me. This is gonna bother me forever.